Good morning. The other day, something happened. I was running some errands when I suddenly had the need to use the washroom. So I stopped at a petrol station. I got to the counter just before two ladies who were there to ask for the washroom keys as well. But since I got there first, the key was given to me. As we walked around the building to find the loo, I was bursting with the urgency of my need for the facility. But I still did what my mother taught me and offered them the keys first. One of the ladies, who appeared to have recognized me when I was dancing from one foot to the other in discomfort at the counter, said, Oh, thank you, Kojo, but we can wait. It seems you need it more urgently than we do. So with absolute gratitude, I stepped into the washroom, lifted the lid of the WC, and almost threw up. It was disgusting. Someone had just resolved their diarrhea issues all over the inner walls of the loo and had not bothered to clean up after themselves. The state in which they had left this public facility was just disgraceful. I don't think I'd ever seen anything so nauseating in my life. Who could have done such a thing? But my bladder needs were too pressing for me to stand around contemplating profound questions, so I unzipped and did my business. Just as I turned to exit, a thought struck me. What if those ladies came in after me and thought I was the one who left this horrible mess? The very thought of anyone thinking I could do such a thing made me want to throw up again. Look, I may never see these ladies again in my life, but they would live their whole lives under the impression that I was a filthy animal with no potty training. So I looked around frantically and spotted what used to be a white toilet brush. It now had flecks of brown and other colors in the bristles and what looked disturbingly like blood on the half-melted handle. So I insulated my palm with a thick wad of toilet roll, grabbed the monstrous brush and scrubbed that WC clean before I left. Later in the car, as I drenched my hands in industrial quantities of hand sanitizer, I realized something. My reputation is valuable to me. I have worked hard for it, and so there is not much I wouldn't do to protect it. I also found myself thinking about numerous other occasions when I had not been as careful with the things that I said and did, times when I had not been as careful with my reputation as I had just been in that filling station. How careless of me. I thought about some other public figures in Ghana. I ran through a mental list of musicians and actors and professors and journalists and government appointees, elected officials who had been so careless with their reputations and found themselves embroiled in scandal. It occurred to me that they may not all have placed the same value on their names as I just did. Otherwise, they might have avoided whatever circumstances led to the besmirching of their reputations. But then again, we're all human. We all make mistakes, and not everyone in the world has the benefit of the epiphany that I had just had that afternoon. But you, my dear friend, you have just seen me tell you this message. So let me ask you two simple questions. One, what is your name? And two, what is it worth to you? The higher the value you place on your name, the more you will do to keep it clean. Like the Bible famously says in Proverbs 22 verse 1, a good name is better than riches. My name is Kojo Yankson, and if we work hard for money, we must work even harder for our reputations. Good morning, Ghana.
Welcome back. Time now for the news. And the Ghana Boundary Commission has begun a community sensitization of residents living in border communities to help protect the pillars and other markings signifying Ghana's territorial sovereignty. Authorities at the commission set up to harmoniously settle matters concerning Ghana's boundaries with its neighbors to avoid an escalation of tensions over territorial differences. Say they are conducting an audit of boundaries throughout the country, starting with land boundaries in the Volta region. National Coordinator of the Commission, Brigadier General Emmanuel Kotia, has been explaining to traditional authorities in the area why they should not confront their neighbors in border towns over these land demarcations. Head of our security desk, Gifty Andoapia, has a wrap of a tour of the area.
The Ghana Boundary Commission is an organization set up to deal with issues arising from Ghana's boundaries with its neighbors. Although the law governing the organization was passed, operationalization of the commission to deal with boundary issues between Ghana and its neighbors happened at the latter part of last year. Ghana's maritime boundary dispute with Ivory Coast, which started in 2010 and ended up in court, is one of the situations the Commission is hoping to avoid by clearing out the blurred lines, starting with the land boundaries. Brigadier General Emmanuel Kotia is the national coordinator.
We are responsible for ensuring that our land boundaries are secured. The pillars are also well placed and they are not disturbed. And for that matter, we are also responsible for ensuring that our land boundaries are not tampered with. Now, one of the important things that we need to understand is that the Boundary Commission has become more operational since the latter part of last year. Now, we want to use this opportunity to advise that all RESEC should be very proactive so far as identifying some of the issues of disturbances along our boundaries are concerned, especially the security of the boundary pillars, and that the border committees within the various district security councils should be very proactive in identifying some of these challenges. Now, giving us early warning, so far as these challenges are concerned, will help prevent a lot of conflict. We want, as a country, to live amicably with our neighbors. And as part of our mandate, as I mentioned earlier on, it is our responsibility to ensure that we really discuss with our neighbors or our counterparts from the opposite side of our country if there are issues. And I can assure you that currently we have a very good relation with the Boundary Commission of Togo. So when there are issues, we are jointly going to resolve these issues at our boundary. We are not going to resolve it independently. Coming here, they are aware that we're coming here. We've told them that we're coming here. They've told all their security personnel along the borders that we are coming to do an exercise here. They should give us all the cooperation. We are in constant touch with them. And that is the way we want to do our work. Going forward, we want to ensure that there will never be a dispute coming out of boundary pillars between Ghana and its neighbors. And that is why that is the main object of the Ghana Boundary Commission. And we're going to ensure that that is applied to the latter.
For about 2 days, his men have been on the ground, along with Immigration and National Investigation Bureau officers, gathering data that will guide the Commission's engagement with its Togolese counterparts. Today, they have just finished briefing him and are taking us to review their findings on the ground. This is the gate that separates two countries. With COVID-19, thoroughfare is not allowed for now. This is one of the pillars meant to show when Ghana's territorial sovereignty ends with Togo. It is lying on its side across this stream instead of being rooted in the ground. Brigadier General Kotia and his men suspect this may have been caused by erosion or other natural causes. But they want to look further to determine whether or not it was a deliberate attempt by anyone to tamper with the demarcations. One of his men explains.
So, as I was saying, we don't know whether it was through human activity or it was through erosion over the years that the pillar fell. So the exact location of the pillar would have to be determined by the surveyors using their instrument to determine the coordinates. But we pick the current coordinates of where the pillar is lying, and then we'll forward it to them for them to also do the assessment. Then if there's any follow-up survey activities, then we can come back and then confirm the exact locations. Where we are standing in Togolese territory, per the demarcations on the original map of 1972.
A long walk will bring us to another pillar with an inscription to the left, BT, meaning British Togoland, and another to the right, TF, with an arrow in between showing which country owns which side. This is the point of separation of two countries, and without these pillars, each country may lay claim to the entire area, and that can create chaos.
And that one identifies the international boundary line. So it's part of our efforts in conducting an audit so far as the boundaries of our countries are concerned. But the priority we have set for ourselves now is to make an audit of the problem areas before we go into other areas that there are no controversies. That is the reason why we've selected this area as one of the key areas that we have come to do an audit.
Well, from security issues, let's move on to more related matters. And the police in Techiman has commenced investigations into the alleged suicide of former headmaster of the Queen of Peace RC Junior High School. District Crime Officer Reverend ASP William Abayate tells JoyNews at Nasabi that though no arrest has been made yet, investigations have begun into the alleged incident which occurred behind the residence of the late head teacher.
It was around 5:45. I came out to buy kinky to break my fast. So I heard the news and I quickly rushed there. So when I got there, in fact, people were crying here and there. So I went there myself to see what actually happened. When I got there, I saw the man hanging himself on a mango tree with a blue nylon on his neck, kneeling down. Then there was a cutlass in front of him.
Dauda Isa Sambari is one of few neighbors who first witnessed the body of the late Paul Jamina hanging dead on a mango tree right behind his fence.
So that was what I saw. According to people, they say it is through the nylon that he passed away. But when you look at him, he wasn't hanging, he was kneeling.
Mr. Paul Jamina, a former headmaster of the Queen of Peace Junior High School, was reported to have hanged himself on Monday. His younger brother, upon receiving the sad news, quickly called the police, who visited the scene immediately. The Techiman District Crime Officer, Reverend ASP William Abayate, narrates to JoyNews what the police gathered upon reaching the scene.
The body was found with a blue nylon rope around his neck. He was wearing a black long-sleeve shirt to match with a black pair of trousers and a black belt. The body was carefully inspected, but no marks of violence was found to suggest any foul play. Preliminary investigation conducted at the scene indicated that the victim, who happens to be deceased, closed from school around 3 p.m. and while the wife, also being a teacher, waiting for him at the school to pick her to the house. She waited for some time, and while she was not coming, the wife drove back to the house and then started preparing their evening meals. The wife sent their 11-year-old boy to throw some refuse on the refuse dump, and then the boy came back and found the father hanging dead on the mango tree. He raised an alarm, and then people came to the area.
He says though no arrest has been made yet, the police has begun investigations into the alleged suicide.
Police, after investigation, detected that the body was actually hanged on the tree with the tongue protruding from the mouth. There was no note left behind to suggest the reason why he was found hanging on the rope. As at now, no arrest has been made and investigation is still ongoing.
Yeah, so we are right here at the residence of the late former headmaster of the Queen of Peace Junior High School, Mr. Paul Jamina. We are told he hanged himself here on this particular mango tree on Monday between 4 to 5 p.m. They're told this is the branch he hung the rope, and then he was found. His body was found here when the incident happened. From what we have gathered, this is the situation from the residence of Mr. Jamna. Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Tichiman.
On to some governance matters now, and government must abandon its agenda to build 111 hospitals across the country and use the money instead to restructure the National Health Insurance Scheme. That's according to senior lecturer at the Department of Public Administration and Health Services Management at the University of Ghana, Dr. Gordon Abeka Nkrumah. The NPP's 2020 manifesto commits to constructing 111 hospitals across the country. The projects are yet to start. Now, speaking at a post-election policy dialogue with the media organized by the Center for Democratic Governance as part of its project to track the implementation of manifesto promises, Dr. Abeka Nkrumah said the promise was not feasible. Head of our political desk, Evans Mensah, was at the event and reports.
This was definitely a first step in not only assessing the manifestos, but also tracking the implementation of the many policies that the NPP made in its 2020 manifesto. It was based on the document that you voted for them. CDD is taking the lead in scrutinizing the post-election document and how the government, having won power, is faring with this. The assessment was broad and it focused both on health but also on education. It is in this sector of education where the fascinating proposal by Kofi Asare of the Africa Education Ward emerged as one of those areas to watch. His point is that WAEC, and we've seen many instances where examinations have become fraught with leakages and questions over the validity of certificates. He says it is time for a regulator to be established by government to police the activities of WAEC.
In Ghana, WAEC is an INGO, an intergovernmental organization owned by 5 countries: Ghana, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Gambia, Nigeria. WAEC in Ghana has no regulatory agency that sets standards, enforces standards, ensures compliance, sanctions non-compliance. So WAEC in itself is the referee and the player and the coach. So anytime a malpractice happens in Ghana, WAEC investigates itself, and they are hardly guilty. If a malpractice happens in the UK, Ofquam will be the investigator, not Cambridge, not Oxford. So when you have a system like ours, it defies the very principle of accountability, because WAEC is accountable to no one.
Also at this event was Dr. Abeka Nkrumah of the University of Ghana, an health expert analyzing the issues relating to the key policies proposed in the NPP 2020 manifesto when it came to the area of health. He was very critical of government's promise back then to roll out a policy of investing in 111 hospitals across the country. His point is that it's not feasible. He was emphatic: we simply do not have the resources to execute this policy agenda.
I think that this wholesale 111 is not needed, and the amount of money that is needed to do this, I believe that that money can be invested into the NHIS to restructure it and make sure that people can have access to service. Else, what is going to happen is that we would have buildings all over the place, which at the end of the day do not actually provide services.
of course, here at JoyNews, we had partner CDD and other civil society groups to bring you the Manifesto Tracker. And that is what we'll be continuing. Of course, now that the government is in power, we'll be analyzing the document based on which you voted for them, together with our civil society friends. And today's event is just one of many along the way. We'll be tracking.
My colleague Evans Mensah reporting from that event. Now, Ghana's political landscape has over the years been dominated by the governing New Patriotic Party and the opposition National Democratic Congress. The other political parties, including the Convention People's Party, the People's National Congress, have over the years recorded worsening electoral performances. The parties have resolved yet again to form alliances and find resources in a quest to improve upon their electoral results. There is more in the following report.
The forum was organized by the Institute of Democratic Governance, IDEG, to bring together political parties including the Convention People's Party, Progressive People's Party and the All People's Congress. Researcher at IDEG, Kwesi Jonah, explains the parties must focus on winning more votes in areas where they are stronger rather than seek to contest many parliamentary seats.
Small parties represented in Ghana Parliament, maybe the situation that we are having now will be slightly different. And so we really need the small parties. It's just that they should back up. They should look at themselves in the mirror and be able to say, oh, this is where we have gone wrong. This is where you have not performed well, and then begin to improve the way in which they operate. They have many weaknesses, some of them financial. Many of them, they even close their offices in the various regions, in the various constituencies, because they simply cannot afford to pay rent. But that is only a small part of their difficulties. They have other organizational difficulties, and that is why we think that bringing them together to learn, to find out, to examine, will help all of us.
The political parties have been sharing their own views on what they think can be done to improve their fortunes. Atodaz is General Secretary of the Great Consolidated Popular Party.
And I have started some of this discussion and encouraging my other general secretaries from other political parties that we need to form an alliance that can support in terms of our resources that we have. Ghana used to be 10 regions, now we are 16 regions, which means that our resources are stretched. We need to create executives from the constituency level, from the regional levels. We used to only have 10 regional executives. Now we have to have 16. We have to have offices and representation across. So our resources are stretched. And if we don't come together and consolidate our resources and focus on specific areas and how we can have representation in Parliament, I think this problem will reoccur.
The All People's Congress agrees with this view. Mordecai Thombiano is General Secretary.
Intelligent men and women are not only found in the NDC and NPP, but they are only fortunate because they have ruled and governed the nation before, and they are well resourced than, with the minor parties. So going forward, I think that we should let Ghanaians understand that if we allow politicians come to our doorsteps to give us money, then it means that they are buying our conscience. So when they win power and they are unable to meet your needs, you cannot hold them accountable. So we need to be looking forward on issues instead of monetary benefits, so that when you vote a political party based on issues and then they are not doing up to expectation, then you can hold them accountable.
Well, on that political note, we draw the curtains on the news for yet another morning. But there's more coming your way in the news review. Do stay. The song Wacho or Wacho Comedy Mue. That's the last time I heard the song. So when I heard it today, it just brought memories flooding back. But thank you for staying with us. We're about to dig into the papers, and joining me via Zoom, Gifty Ando Apia, who also is head of our security desk. You saw her a short while ago. Gifty, if you can hear me, a very good morning to you. Hello, Gifty. Good morning.
Hi, Benjamin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, and you're glowing as usual. Nice background, by the way.
Oh, right. Gomez knows where it is.
Oh, okay. Gomez, by the way, happens to be one of our directors. So if he knows, Gifty will have a lot to say about that. But anyway, so
don't waste your time. There's nothing to know.
There's nothing to do, Yebehu. All right, so we have quite a number of papers to get into. Walk us through the papers you have this morning, Gifty.
Okay, I have the Dispatch newspaper, and then I have the Finder newspaper as well. I also have the Ghanaian Times newspaper, and I have the Daily Guide newspaper. So I have 4 in all, Benjamin.
Okay, from my end, the Ghanaian Publisher, the Daily Graphic, the Daily Statesman, the Custodian, Republic Press, and the Business and Financial Times. So let's check out your headlines, Gifty, the ones you'd like to delve into this morning.
Starting with the Dispatch newspaper. Okay, just hang on a second. There it is. Banner headline is suspend mining in all forest reserves. That story is on page 12, and it comes with a picture of the Minister for the Sector, Samuel Abu Jinapo. And then, well, the story, it includes Lands Minister orders, and then Obeda Samwa on the Busia era. That story is on page 3. And then Akufo-Addo will not hesitate to reshuffle his ministers after 1 year. It comes with a picture of the president, and that story is on page 11. And Zoom Lion donates to Let Make Accra Work project. Back page of the same newspaper is where you have the details of the Samuel Abu Jinapo's order for the suspension of prospecting in all forest reserves. And right beneath that is a picture of Al-Hassan Tampoli, former head of the NPA. The story is, I find myself in a very enviable position, Hassan Tampoli, on his ministerial appointment. Let me quickly move to the Finder newspaper. Banner headline for the Finder newspaper. Abu Jinapo suspends prospecting in forest reserves. That story has been trending this yesterday. No renewed or processing of new applications. Directive takes effect in 7 days. Story is on page 4. And then there are other stories, plenty of stories on the Finder newspaper's front page. GRA bans cash payments effective June 1. Akufo-Addo appoints Oboshi Kofi as Media and Strategic Communications Advisor. National Tripartite Committee begins processes to set new minimum wage. And Ghana's economy bounces back on growth part, page 8. And then Ghana School of Law to celebrate the legacy of the late Ochiame Bafo Oseakoto, page 8. That is the Finder newspaper for you. Let me go on with the Ghanaian Times. Ghanaian Times, also the same story, mineral prospecting in forest reserves suspended. Picture of the minister comes with. And respond promptly to early warning signals. That is the story attributed to the Chief of Staff, Primose Opare. And then boost for Let Accra Work Again. And then 98 Togolese Benin illegal immigrant arrested in Volta region. So a lot happening there in Volta region as far as people trying to enter into the country. Final newspaper is the Daily Guide newspaper, front page. Ex-Net boss, 4 others face 29 new charges. And then government suspends prospecting of forest reserves. Akufo-Addo is my paddy. E.T. Mensah is saying that. Court grants Agrada 500,000 bail, re-arrested by police, I guess because she couldn't meet the bail conditions. And yeah, I'll just leave it there. Benjamin, let me hand over to you now.
Okay, thank you very much, Gifty. But on the bit of paddy, Akufo-Addo and E.T. Mensah, what would that be? Paddyism? That's just on the lighter note. But with the Daily Graphic newspaper now, it says suspend all activities in forest reserves. Lands Minister directs, and 16 excavators seized in Western region. Pass tax exemptions bill to check financial drain, and then AG revives Ernest Thompson's case. That's actually on page 20 of the news paper. And I'm talking here about the former Director General of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, we all call it SNIT, Ernest Thompson, and 4 others who are back in court for allegedly causing financial loss of $14.8 million to the state. Push investment into road infrastructure. That's according to an expert, Dr. William Akar. He is senior research scientist with the CSIR. Now, other bits and pieces that we can take a look at in the Daily Graphic newspaper, page 7, there's a bit of an editorial there. Wikipedia's insult of the black race. You can check out. It's someone's opinion piece. India sets COVID-19 record amid oxygen shortage, and India is indeed in dire straits. Deaths rose by 2,104 in the same time period. I'm talking about some 24-hour periods, the highest one-day tally recorded anywhere in the world. And it's India's worst toll. It brings the country's total confirmed cases close to 16 million, second only to America's 31.9 million. And here I'm talking about North America, specifically the United States. Another opinion piece on page 10, where are we going? Reminds me of that song, We Are Going. Only heaven knows where we are going. You go to the middle spread of the paper. Respond to warning signals. Chief of Staff charges RCCs, that is the Regional Coordinating Councils, and then prosecute perpetrators of collapsed banks. What do you think about that? Because it appears, yes, we had the banking sector cleanup. We're still in the midst of it in certain ways. The cost of it still like an albatross around our necks. But what happens to those who actually oversaw this ghastly enterprise? Do they get away with it? On the back page, government LMI holdings to build more industrial parks. I'll very quickly take a look at the other papers. The Ghanaian publisher, government gets tough on Galamsey, bans prospecting activities in forest reserves. I find myself in a very enviable position. That's Hassan Tampuli. And then there's this one. U.S. ambassador supports Otumfuo to protect Lake Bosom. Then there's the Daily Statesman. Leave the forest reserves now. Yes, Mr. Minister, I hope that actually pans out. But how about we make Etiwa a forest reserve as well and protect it? I know I'm treading into some very...
What is a forest reserve? That's why Arocha, for example, is up in arms against mining of bauxite in that area, although government has justified it by saying that, you know, we've got money, so let's make use of the money we've got.
So here's my point. In recent times, there was another, I think it was the United Nations. You know, there have been communications over time. Even the one about some 3 groups, including the BMW group, that said that it may not buy, you know, bauxite or aluminium processed from Etiwa. Then the recent one about giving further protection to Etiwa because of some of the species that are likely to go extinct in there. So that's why I'm talking about an even enhanced form of protection for that forest reserve. So if we're talking about this on the back of Galamsey, how about bauxite mining and Etiwa as well? That's the point I seek to make. Then government directs companies engaged in mining, reconnaissance and prospecting. The custodian, Akufo-Addo, retains 11 deputy ministers, picks 28 new ones. NDC is now practicing patronage politics, and Zoom Lion donates cars to support Let's Make Accra Work project. The Republic, Agrada in fresh trouble. Apparently, the lightning could not prevent her being arrested. Well, she's been rearrested after bail. And there's Northern Region police hunt teacher for impregnating students. My final paper, the Business and Financial Times, increasing utility tariffs will collapse private businesses. Economy may not return to normal in 2021. Those are some key stories in the BNFT. So, Gifty, as we get into this matter, I also spotted a story. I think you have the Ghanaian Times, the one about 98 Togolese and Beninese illegal immigrants rounded up in the Volta region. How much more can you tell us about that? And of course, as we're talking security and even our borders with Togo, these are some surrounding circumstances. How much more do we know about this situation, Gifty?
Well, this is this fresh arrest is not something that I am at the moment aware of details. What we do know, by the way, is that our borders are shut and people aren't supposed to be coming in at this point. But it looks to me like there's a lot of activities going on around our borders in the Volta region, because barely 2 weeks or so ago was when we got the story about the arrest of some 9 Nigerians. And out of these 9 Nigerians, the security agencies had the suspicion that they could be a part of those convicts who broke jail in Nigeria. So I don't have the details of this particular story at the moment. But Benin through Togo to Ghana is pretty easy. I've gone to Benin through the Togo border, and so it's very easy because you know how the way the borders are. Just like yesterday, we were checking out our boundaries, etc. It won't be so. I'm not surprised that we're having Benin coming in. What I'm impressed about, by the way, is that we've been able to arrest them. But I can tell you for a fact that perhaps there are people who have slipped through that we haven't been able to get hold of. But 98 of them, that's a lot. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to continue to resource our men who man our borders, because the borders are really porous. We know that for a fact. I'm excited that we're able to make these arrests now, but I think there's still a lot of work that we need to do. We'll be checking with the security agencies in the Volta region to get more information, and the immigration service to get more information on these new arrests that have been made. But we do know also that the 9 arrests that were made is still an outstanding case. We haven't had information enough from the immigration service nor from any of the security agencies that we understand are looking into this.
Well, one thing is clear, Gifty knows how to cross borders. You know how to cross borders. But that's on a lighter note. So quite a bit of concern here. Yesterday, I think I saw a post, I don't know, from Kwame A+, at least I saw something like that talking about. So when you go to certain areas, those screaming, Lagos, 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 cars, you know, what is happening? Where are they going? If our land borders indeed are closed, why do we have buses supposedly, you know, plying those routes? So I think this gives us a lot of food for thought. There's a lot that we have to digest on these matters.
Did you say this was happening now? This was something that was happening now?
Well, from what I saw, that was what it was intimating. Now, the land borders are shut, but maybe the key might be Lagos, Lagos, Lagos. Where is the car going?
Well, I don't have my own independent.
Unless it's Lagos town.
Of his post. But what I do know is that it's very usual. Until the borders were closed because of COVID-19, it's very, very usual to hear those vehicles, you know, soliciting passengers to go into Nigeria. It's very normal. And one of the concerns that the security agencies have had about it is that, so if somebody commits a crime, for example, today, they commit a crime today, all they can do is very easy for them to jump on a bus that's going out of the country. Yeah. It was a concern for them. I don't know how they managed to deal with that or how they are dealing with that, but it was a concern. So it's not new. It's not entirely new. It's not a big deal. It happens all the time. What I don't know is whether it is happening now that the borders have been closed because of COVID-19.
Well, on page 5 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper, black teenage girl shot dead by police in Ohio. I just had to highlight that because that has triggered another movement, an entire, you know, uproar, and it's about the late Micaiah Bryant, and people calling, even on the back of the supposed win against Derek Chauvin, people are still, black people I should say, in the United States, still feeling the pinch when it comes to supposed racist attacks. Maybe your brief thoughts on that, and then you can share some other stories from the papers that you'd like to touch on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a worrying situation, but I would love to get more information, the circumstances surrounding this particular case. We know that, you know, people didn't start dying now, but we know also that there has been this clear imbalance over the years where you have white police officers or Caucasian police officers being the ones at the back of the gun when some of these murders or alleged murders occur. So I'd love to know the details of this particular story to be able to share my thoughts. But I think that even though we've had this landmark case, you know, in the US and everybody's talking about it and they are hopeful that it is going to stop some of these nonsense, I think we probably should just give it some time. We probably should just give it some time.
So what we do know about it is that she was wielding, she was wielding a knife. She was supposedly threatening to stab someone else. I mean, you see in the footage, if you follow the story, you would see her with a knife, okay? And you would hear the police officer from the body cam and all of that scream, hey, get down, and then she is shot subsequently, 16, 17-year-old. So, yes, investigation still ongoing, but the question is, could this not have been averted? Was she really going to stab the other person? And what could the police officer have done differently? You know, all of these are in there.
I don't know what she was doing with the knife and how close she was to the officer, because if you have a knife, you need to get close to me to be able to harm me with it, unless you're going to use the knife to harm yourself, which, of course, if I'm a police officer, or police officers are obliged to stop people from committing suicide. Everybody else is obliged to stop people from committing suicide. So if what she was using the knife for was to hurt herself, then, you know, maybe a shot, you know, trying to do something that will stop her. And police officers, I know, are trained to shoot. So you don't just shoot somebody in the heart or in the chest. You can shoot them anywhere, in the leg, in the thigh. I don't know how easy that is, because aiming with a gun is also a whole different, it has its own dynamics that you need to understand and learn about. So you can shoot them anywhere apart from a place that will kill them. But if she was holding the knife and threatening to attack this officer, and this officer was far away, because you need to get close to me to use the knife, then I don't think it's justifiable. But again, this is just happening. I don't have the details of how it happened. But I'm saying that I think 16, 17, some youth, especially in America, can be very erratic. We don't even want to talk about that. So I'm not giving it to the officer, but I'm saying that young people can also be very erratic. Again, it might take a little bit of time for this landmark case to go down and sink into the heads of these officers who sometimes behave, you know, on racial discrimination lines, or people who profile people, white officers who profile black people. I think it will go, you know, we need some time for it to sink in.
Racial profiling is...
Young people
that's
to
a
be
problem.
Careful the way they behave. Just because the police... Hello? You hear me?
So I was just saying that racial profiling is an entire problem on its own, and we might need an entire show to discuss
by saying that just because there has been a case that sort of gives victory, you know, brings victory to the black community, it doesn't mean that people should go daring the police. It doesn't mean that people should go, you know, rubbing it in. I think there has to be work.
So more caution ought to be observed.
Well. While you're telling the police officers to not to shoot and kill people, you should also be telling young people to be responsible in their behavior.
Is there any other story you'd like to highlight?
I think I did see a couple stories that I was interested in.
So that would have to be very brief. It would have to be very brief, but go ahead and highlight that story.
Okay. There's a story about, it's an interesting one. 90-year-old Konimo saying that respect for women has made him live long. I just wanted to advise men like yourself and Gomez and all.
Why single out? Why single out yours truly, Gomez and the rest?
I'm just using you as a point of contact.
We are the guinea pigs, eh? Okay.
Yeah, no. I think it's an interest. I mean, Konimo is somebody that a lot of we should learn a lot about him. We should have him in our history books and learn a lot about him when it comes to music and his contribution to the arts. So, I mean, I found it interesting that he's here in the story. But there's also a story that's been attributed to Grico that says Accra alone consumes over 25% of our total power supply. And I'm like, okay, like, you know, let's fix it then. Let's do what we have to do to get there.
If you've noted that, you must put in place the right mechanisms. And this is the capital anyway. Everywhere you go, the capital has a lot more, when it comes to road infrastructure, a lot more pressure on it when it comes to electrical infrastructure or energy infrastructure. So a little surprise in there for me.
Yeah. Well, and then there was also the story that I saw about top 10 accident-prone areas.
Oh, yes.
In Accra.
Yes.
And that feeds into our Drive Safe campaign, and you see the pictures. And I really don't know if we need a magic wand to just, No,
we can't wish it away. Unfortunately, we can't wish it away.
Well, I just wanted to highlight it to just remind people and to keep it back still in the minds of people that we're still in this campaign, and it's up to us to be responsible on our roads, and it's up to us to protect ourselves and to protect others who use the roads.
Right, so let's all drive safe. We'll wrap with myjoyonline.com. Some interesting stories there. Abandoned agenda 111 hospitals to resource NHIS. Abekan Nkrumah tells government. There's a SNIT OBS scandal. States use Ernest Thompson and 4 others again. And there's WAEC needs a regulator. Africa Education Watcher Kofi Asare has been saying that. There's also this one. Election 2020, it is absolutely preposterous to think NDC didn't collate its results. That's according to Elvis Efriye Ankra. And I was the least expected candidate. John Kuma speaks on his deputy ministerial appointment. You can check out that story and others there. Yesterday, the story as well, it's also there, the bit about Peter Anti of the IES saying that the WASI results, the number of Ghanaian students who chalked 8 A's has nothing to do with free SHS. That and many more stories on myjoyonline.com. Gifty, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you for your time.
Have a great day.
Right, see you later in the day. Right now, though, it's time for us to move over for sports. That's up next on the AM show. Do stay.
If you were the only star from an area where a monument is erected in your name, what role would you be playing to ensure it is in good shape? For the people of Tamale, they feel extremely disappointed that Abedi Pele has not played any role in ensuring that the only monument for the 3-time African Player of the Year is left to deteriorate. We will bring you highlights from the Premier League match that was played yesterday, and also in La Liga, where Barcelona were 5-2 winners over Getafe. Ghana Premier League resumes this weekend. What are the fixtures looking like? Details in the next 15 minutes. But first, let's start off with the story we'll be sharing with you later today. And it has to do with the people of Tamale who feel so disappointed that Abedi Pele, the 3-time African Footballer of the Year, has an only monument set up by the Tamale Metro. They say they're disappointed that he and his children has not played any role to keeping it in good shape. And this will be coming to you at exactly 8:15. Tune into Joy News. If you have already joined Joy Prime, it is currently on air on Joy Prime. We will bring you the details of that feature, how the people of Tamale feel. If you have played a role in ensuring that people who are playing essential roles and they become mentors for others in society, what role do you have to play? How disappointed would you be that it is not being recognized by the very person it is being named after? Join us at 8:15 a.m. Now let's do national team news, and it has to do with the Black Stars. Many say Ghana has failed to win the African Cup of Nations because we are unlucky, especially George Afriye and Emmanuel Ajimambedu. These are two people who believe that we've been unlucky. Others say that it's due to indiscipline. One of the technical members who has been part of the team in participating in an African Cup of Nations is Ibrahim Tango. According to him, if everyone should play their role, there wouldn't be indiscipline in camp and Ghana will end up winning the trophy someday. We'll be sharing that story with you later. But now let's move on and do Gladson Awako. He is the skipper of Great Olympics. He's been a star man in the setup of Great Olympics. Many say that Olympic season is different from what we've witnessed in previous years. He says management have contributed essentially to ensuring that they've had a season to remember this year. And let's move on now and bring you stories about how Kumasi Asante Kotoko head coach Mariano Barreto is confident that all players will be given equal opportunities to contribute to the success of the team.
It was impossible. Everybody knows my personality. I'm a fighter guy, so I make my mistakes. I try to learn with them. I try to be fair. I try to give to the players what they are giving me. I try to be fair with the people, loyal, but I demand hard work because someone are putting money to pay his salaries, and they have to respect it. And one of the messages I give my players, they are making the best job of the world. Someone are paying to them to enjoy, to play football. Look what the people are suffering when they are carrying, they are working in the constructions, they are carrying sacks of cement, and they are working in the mechanic cars. It's very hard life, so they have a fantastic life. They have to work, so during 1 hour and a half, 90 minutes, they have to be completely committed and in focus in each job. And my duty is to make sure that they are doing it. Since I come here, I saw, comparing the behavior of first 2-3 trainings and what they are doing, that they realize that they really want to win. They really want to make something good for themselves, for their families. And this gives me a lot of confidence. Sure, we will have problems. It's like when we are going in the long journey because second round just are coming. And during all this time, it's like we are going driving. And during all this journey, we have problems with the cars. We have to change some damage. We have to put petrol. We have to problems with the tires. But if you are ready, we are prepared to face the small problems we found. We are going to find during the trip.
Now let's go back to our earlier story and bring you the story of how Ibrahim Tango says that if everyone should play his role in the national team, there wouldn't be indiscipline and Ghana would end up winning the African Cup of Nations.
I mean, this indiscipline we are talking about is about bringing women in hotel. I mean, when we went to tournament, it's not only players who are in this hotel. You have officials, you have people in the hotel. So it's not that when you see a woman, she is from a player. So discipline that I'm talking about is if we are going to training 5 o'clock and the coach said we should be in the bus 4:45, everyone must be there. When we are in training, what the coach is telling you, I mean, you have to concentrate on all this. Or everything that is happening behind the scene. So for me, that is not, a player can do anything, even if you give him a soldier to guide him. Yeah. If he wants to do things, he will do. Yeah, but it depends on you, the player. If you are a serious player, you want to achieve something, all these things, you put it aside. It's just 3 to 1 week. And it's not that the coaches cannot control them. A coach has his job. You have security, you have physio, everyone is doing his job. After training, the coach has to prepare for another training. So sometimes he don't come out because it's not his job to look at the players. So I think this is where we have to look at more. So that, because it's also not easy, because you see some of the senior players, the security guys cannot control them because maybe they are afraid they will lose that kind of opportunity and all this. But if, I mean, Ghana is paying you, they took you to guide the players, you have to be firm and told the players, no, it's not going to happen. So everyone has to do his job, then the players will also be disciplined.
Let's do some Ghana Premier League news. In the 2017-2018 Ghana Premier League season, Great Olympics filed 8 different petitions in the boardroom seeking to win boardroom points. They're always a team that will qualify to the Ghana Premier League, but will be relegated at the end of the season. The story has been different this year. They currently occupy second on the Ghana Premier League table, with many wondering what has changed with that team. Glasson Awoko, who is the skipper of the team, says that management have played a crucial role in ensuring the team chalk success this season.
The togetherness between us, the teamwork, because you could tell we've had I think the same team, players last season, and as the coach as well. When he came in last season, it needs time to get used to the players. It needs time to make a good team, which we were not lucky enough when the league was cancelled. So God being so good, we had a chance to have a full season with the coach, which this time he knows that the players so well. And you can tell our performance on the field is really showing that the coach has put in so much. Likewise, the management as well. They try, they do their best. Even money has been a problem due to these COVID issues, but they try their best to make sure they give the bonuses, the salary and all that. Everything comes on time. So. I think the players too are doing so well. I don't think I can do all this alone, because we have equal quality good players in the team, which I can mention a lot. Maxwell is doing so well. Ashikwe. We had Michael, who is not with us at the moment. Philip Saki, Manan. We have a whole lot. Jamal. Eric, Danso, we have a whole lot of players out there who are doing so well too. So I can't come out and be taking the glory or I'm the one doing everything. No, I can't do all this alone. They are playing the bigger part in.
The quality of players mentioned will be in action this weekend when Great Olympics plays their next Ghana Premier League game. They drew 0-0 against Kumasi Asante Kotoko on March day 20, but let's take a look at how the fixtures look like on March day 21 of the Ghana Premier League. Kumasi Asante Kotoko, they will be playing Midiama SC on Saturday. Liberty Professional will also host Brekum Chelsea. Ebusua Dwarfs will play Great Olympics. Great Olympics lost to Ebusua Dwarfs in the first round of the Premier League season. On Sunday, Inter Allies will play King Faisal. Ashanti Gold will host Bechim United. In the last game, Bechim United hammered Ediana Stars by 4-0. Legon Cities, who lost to Brekum Chelsea by 2-1, will be playing Dreams FC. Ediana Stars will play Elmina Sharks, who were 1-0 victors over Wafa, and Wafa will play Techiman 11 Wonders. Kala United will host Accra Hearts of Oak. Now let's do a competition that will be coming in September and October. Many people who are invested in juvenile football in the country are now disinterested because they say it is not a lucrative area to put in money. Now, the Ghana Football Association has decided that they will come out with this new initiative called the Juvenile Champions League to unearth talents across the country.
Coast Champions League or the Juvenile Champions League. Now, this Juvenile Champions League will be a competition for the various champions in the regions. Now, we will play the district football, then the champions will move to play in the regional competition, then the regional champions will play in the national competition called the National Juvenile Champions League. Now, this National Juvenile Champions League will be an all-play-all competition. It will be a regional affair. So, some of the regions where the numbers look huge and the competition is much richer, we will have more than 2 or 3 clubs representing the region. For instance, in Upper East, you have about 11 juvenile clubs. In Upper West, it's a similar situation because they have peculiar challenges with field of play and a few other factors. You can compare that to Brong-Ahafo region, who have almost 300 clubs. Greater Accra, who have almost 400 clubs. So yes, we want to pay attention to the development of juvenile football. There is a plan in place. The master plan looks very good. We have tested the waters. We have looked at, all we have to do, and it looks really amazing. We have decided to use, game centers for the juvenile league.
Welcome back on the AM show. Now, to kickstart our discussions this morning, we focus on the cocoa industry. Cocoa farmers are agitated following China's entry into the sector in recent times. We had quite a number of, cocoa beans produced, sent to the chocolate capital of the world, Brussels, in Belgium. What are the pros and cons? What should we be looking out for as a country? Should we be concerned? Delving into the issues with us this morning, we have Fifi Boafo, who is Head of Public Affairs with CocoaBot. He joins us from the standpoint of that major player, CocoaBot. Anthony Morrison is CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness. And we also have Nana Aye, a cocoa farmer, a traditional ruler from Asin Esunaso, and also a cocoa farmer. Thank you very much for joining the conversation wherever you are. And I'd like to say to Nana, a very good morning to you.
Thank you.
Great. So as we as we have this conversation, let me just salute Anthony Morrison as well, and Fifi Boafo. A very good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning. Very good morning.
Okay. I see your cameras may be in, is it landscape? Okay, so we'll keep it like that, but thank you for joining the conversation. So just to give a bit of a backdrop or a background to this story, in recent times we heard that China had exported a large number of kilograms, over 400, to Belgium. And we had the Agric Minister respond and say that the quality of our cocoa beans is unsurpassed, and so it is not a major problem. He says that the international market opting to pay up to 25%, 15 to 25% on the premium price goes to spell that out. The background again indicates that Ghana produces between 800,000 and 900,000 metric tons of cocoa. The Ivory Coast producing over 2 million of those. But how much of a concern is this? Let's come into the studio and start the discussion from here. Nana, you're a cocoa farmer.
Yeah.
How big is the land that you cultivate cocoa on?
Well, personally, mine, I have over 100 acres.
Over 100 acres?
Yes. And
right.
It's not big enough. I mean, if you really want to farm and make profit, let's focus on the smallholder farmer,
right,
for now, and see whether if they are making money or not. If you really sit down and do your calculations, it's a miracle how farmers are still in business. It's a miracle because if you do your calculations, the amount of times you have to take care of the farm, labor cost and everything, it's a miracle.
So I was going to ask what the state of the cocoa farmer is. How do you describe yourself as a cocoa farmer? Yes. Are you a small-scale farmer? Are you how would you describe yourself?
Well, I'm a medium-scale farmer.
Medium-scale.
You know, if you're talking about a small-scale farmer, we're looking at a 1 acre, 2 acre farmers, and they're all over. Okay, you only see these large farms when you go to the western north area. But a southern part of the western area, in the central region, some part of the Ashanti region, and some areas in the Volta and the eastern, majority of us are small-scale farmers. Yeah.
So I'll go back to the state of the farmer, cocoa farmer in Ghana. What are the major challenges you see in here? Because we're talking about cocoa farmers nowadays selling off their land to people who want to do galamsey. Of course, we're treating the galamsey menace, but that's something else on its own. We're seeing cocoa farmers resorting to now planting rubber trees and all of that. It's our reality. What is the state of the cocoa farmer? What are the challenges you're facing?
Good. You see, the challenges didn't start today. Okay. If you come to my area, for instance, 1, we have issues with labor. 2, our forest is being degraded, not by the miners alone, by illegal loggers.
Wow.
You can't even go to the Forest Commission in your area to complain. Nothing will happen.
Nothing will happen?
Nothing absolutely will happen. That is the problem now. If you come to my area, look, you always hear chainsaw machines running in the night, and you will complain to the forestry department and nothing happens.
And all of it is illegal. These are illegal loggers.
Yes, illegal loggers. And you know, look, there's something about farmers. When you approach the typical farmer, I mean somebody from my village, Krasini, as we call ourselves, okay, the person can go so far. A little intimidation, the person withdraws. And sometimes you need the support of the police, the community. Being a chief, sometimes I'm a little different. I'm a little bit confrontational. I will get up and do certain things. But most farmers, when they get up to talk, nobody listens to them and they quarrel back. That is the problem. So our issues is not just illegal miners. They have come to dominate the conversation now. It is a problem, but we have illegal loggers in our community cutting down the few trees coverage for the cocoa farmers.
Right.
And because of that, we've seen some patterns of rainfall that is not right. Normally, around this time, farmers will be clearing their land, preparing their cocoa farms, pruning, doing fertilizer. Guess what? The rain has come in early, okay? And as I sit here for the past 2 weeks, and I haven't seen rains in my area. It is a big problem. And this is an area where I will beg cocoa farm, cocoa board to look at very carefully. You know, come up, study the weather, and educate the farmers so that we'll be abreast with what is going on. If you go to my village today, we don't know what is happening. People know that the weather has changed. They'll tell you that the weather has changed because, look, they've been farming for the past 50 years.
Right.
Okay, and they've seen the weather change. But I haven't seen a very good program for cocoa farmers, like cocoa board coming on board to tell us, look, the rain pattern has changed. Let's change the way we do our farming. Let's plant at this month instead of we used to do 10 years ago. We used to plant at this month. You see, we need something like that. So
you're not seeing cocoa board, you know, leveling up in that respect to ensure that our cocoa production even remains at a certain level.
Yes, you see, for the past year now, just about 3 weeks ago, we had a forum in my village. I couldn't go. I elected somebody to represent me. Cocoa board came to the village to talk to us about agrochemicals, new fertilizer that is coming on board. You see, those things are okay. But the main thing is our livelihood there, okay? The trees are being cut off. The weather is changing. And we want to see some strong education on that for farmers.
Okay. I'll cross over to Anthony Morrison and, you know, others. But so the point to be made is this. I mean, the head PRO of Cocoa Board. But the point to be made is this. I want you to just hit the nail on the head. Don't skirt the issues. Are you contemplating at any point, would you, if you had other alternatives, would you stop cocoa farming and move on to something else? We've seen some of your colleagues do that. Is that something you've thought about before?
Yes, but why will a farmer give away his farm to miners? Because there's no money in it. You understand? If you sit down quietly, I mean, do your analysis. Okay, for the smallholder farmer, I talk about the smallholder farmer because they are the majority. Okay, if you sit down and do all your analysis, it is very expensive. And I don't think the smallholder farmer is making money. I think something could be done. Cocoa Board can work with that. They must come up with something.
Right.
Okay, otherwise, few people will be, selling their lands to miners. And also, you see, rubber is creeping in. Okay. Years ago,
and even with the rubber, we're not processing the rubber, and we're sending it outside. It is used to make tires and other things, and it's sold back to us, to us here in Ghana by the South Koreas and other countries. So we are not even tapping the most we can out of rubber.
Well, I'm a farmer. My job is to produce. It's up to the authorities to do something about that area. I just want to focus on how is the cocoa farmer doing. You understand? If the authorities, that is Cocoa Board and government, if they don't step in quickly and do something, people will start giving away their cocoa farms.
Anyway,
let me finish. Let me come in this. Last year we saw Cocoa Board bringing in some mechanization systems like pruning and those small equipments for weeding and stuff like that. Look, it was a good idea, but I don't know what if Cocoa Board has done some research to see the impact of that machine that was brought to the farmers.
Right.
When you talk to the farmers, it's very difficult to use those equipment.
I see.
Yes, it's very difficult to. This morning when I was coming, I just spoke to some few farmers in my area. Just wanted to pick some fresh ideas from them to see so that I can also contribute here.
Right.
And the machines are very difficult to manage, to work with. So as I sit here, if you come to my farm, I'm still using the old way of cutting or weeding my farm.
So interesting dynamics we're actually getting into here when it comes to cocoa production. Oftentimes we sit far away in Accra and we think everything is good. We're hearing now that everything is not that rosy. But let me bring in Tony Morrison, CEO of the Chamber of Agribusiness. From where you sit, you interact with a lot of farmers. What would you say you have seen to be the major challenges to cocoa production in Ghana that we ought to be addressing? Before I go to Mr. Boafo, who would sum up some of these matters.
Thank you very much, my good friend Benjamin, and good morning to my dad, Nana, who is in the studio with you. Yes, Benjamin, first of all, one major current issue is the issue of climate change.
Right.
And this is where governments and other organizations who are within the cocoa value chain needs to be addressing now. Climate change is becoming very evident with us, and we need to look at it. Another issue, and I'll quote the World Bank's 2020 report that says that African farmers can make up to $1 trillion if they adopt technology, irrigation, and mechanization. Our own 2018 agriculture census states that over 57% of our rural farmers still uses rudimentary technologies. And if they adopt new technologies such as irrigation, mechanization, and others, they'll be making over 30% marginal profit on their farms. So that tells you the current or the prevailing challenges with the industry, and it's widely acknowledged everywhere. Government needs to step up and put in a long-term strategy. For me, we are in the world of geopolitical and geo-trade and commerce. And every country, as Ghana, who prioritize its commodities, especially cocoa, should be able to have probably a 50 or 100 years long-term strategy. Because each and every year, other countries are looking at foreign policies. And these foreign policies include trade, commerce, and various other ways. And these foreign policies are inducing itself a geopolitical strategy of destabilization of another country to make their country more powerful in whatever they want to do. And this is the world of strategy we find ourselves. Look at the countries that produces 70% of the world's cocoa: Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, Cameroon. all these 4 countries produces 70% of the world's cocoa. Look at the countries that produces the top chocolates in the world. And you mentioned US, Germany, Switzerland, and Western Europe. Western Europe alone makes up 35% of the world's chocolate production. US makes 30%. So what are we doing as a country? Very good. We have some commodities that students uses, homes and hospitals uses, okay? Is there any way we can intensify the production and consumption of some of these products? Now, on the side of government, what is the long-term strategy to protect agriculture farms? You see, the point here is that we need to put this into its right context. It's not about just cocoa, but it's about the food security of this country. If we are losing our agricultural lands, at the same time, we should be thinking of importing food heavily. And we can control what we import because we need to feed our people. As I'll give you a 50 kg. It's now being sold at 120 Ghana. In fact, just as yesterday, I'm being told it's being sold at 140 for the same price. That should tell you what the world strategy is going. Brazil that exports over 200 million metric tons of maize have reduced their importation. So as a country, what we need to do is to safeguard first and foremost our agricultural lands, because that is very, very critical towards the survival of this country.
Okay.
So if we do not safeguard our agricultural lands, that will be a challenge.
Okay, so Morrison, we're facing some technical, issues in there, but very important points you've made, and the bit about Africa being able to raise about $1 trillion from cocoa production. It tells you just how much we're missing out on countries like the Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, among others, Cameroon and all. But let me come to Fifi Boafo now. You speak for Cocoa Board. I want you to succinctly deal with some of the issues that Nana and Tony Morrison have raised in respect of illegal logging, in respect of a lack of proper education, even on weather patterns and changes when it comes to cocoa farming, and also in respect of some of the mechanization drives Cocoa Board has engaged in. Apparently, some of the tools you are giving the farmers, well, they serve no real purpose because they can't use them in the first place. How do you react?
Well, thanks for the opportunity. Now, I'd like to say that I owe Nana a lunch because most of the things he's talked about are spot on. There are things we are very much aware of and then we are taking actions. But I think the challenge really has to do with the fact that probably there's some form of information gap and there's the need for us to bridge that gap. Nana talked about the fact that the slashes which were given to the farmers, they're having issues with its usage. Let me admit and say that we have that complaint. What we've realized is that
a bit of a challenge there with Fifi Boafo's connection. Okay. Please go on, Mr. Boafo. Go on. We can hear you now. So this is what we're going to do as Mr. Boafo tries to reconnect. We're having a conversation on cocoa production in Ghana. China has started, exporting cocoa, at least their very first batch going to Brussels, the chocolate capital of the world. The point to be made is, are we doing enough to actually hold our own? Please go ahead.
Hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead, Mr. Boafo.
Very well. Now let's talk about the slashes. The slashes serve two purposes. One is to use it as a pruner and to use it to weed the farm. With the use of it as a pruner, so far, we've not had any complaints, and I think it served the farmers well the last cocoa season. However, using it as a slasher, it has come with its own set of challenges. What we've asked our staff to do at the local level is to retrain the farmers on its usage, because I think that the training that was done was not comprehensive enough, and the farmers were unable to grasp the how is usage supposed to be? So what we're doing at this moment is to get our staff back to go train the farmers such that the farmers will be able to use these slashes to serve the purpose for which it was bought. On the issue about the rainfall pattern, it's a very, very serious issue which all of us as a country must look at, because there are several activities that are affecting the rainfall pattern. Logging, just like Nana talked about, illegal galamsey or illegal mining. Nana's area might not have seen the extent of devastation caused by illegal mining. But if you move outside Central region to areas such as Ashanti, Western and Western North, in some parts Eastern region, the level of devastation caused by illegal mining is huge. And the people are in the forest mining, causing this rainfall pattern to change because of deforestation. So yes, it is something which all of us as a country must work on. In fact, Cocoa Board, as we speak, is engaging the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources on a number of things that can be done. Unfortunately, because of time, I'm unable to go through all those
you can go ahead and mention some of them, because I want to find out from you, Mr. Boafo, what exactly, sometimes we talk about these issues and we re-echo the problems. What exactly is Cocoa Board seeing as a solution or solutions that can be brought to bear, especially in terms of the climate change issues, especially in terms of illegal logging and the surrounding issues? So even before this national consultative bit on galamsey, what has Cocoa Board been doing to address these issues? Maybe in a minute.
Okay, that's fine. And I'll talk about the fact that if you look at the rainfall pattern, it is changing. Because of that, Cocoa Board is in discussion to procure a system that will be able to monitor rainfall pattern in the various cocoa growing areas and use it as a basis to advise farmers on when to do what, because the rainfall pattern determines when you are supposed to prune, when you are supposed to put fertilizer on your farm, when you are supposed to spray and all that. That is ongoing. Beyond that, there are these illegal miners who are taking farms that belong to cocoa farmers. Of course, Cocoa Board does not on its own have the power to stop somebody. But of course, there's a proposal before the ministry for an action where before you get the permission, for example, to bring down a cocoa farm to undertake mining activity, there's some cost and there are some actions you are supposed to undertake before you are able to do so. And these proposals are preventive, we believe, such that they will make it difficult for these persons to cut the farms down and then take over and use it for other purposes. In time past, if you look at the laws and the regulations and the conventions we've had, they did not seem to serve this purpose, for which reason this action has been taken. Of course, the general issue about illegal mining and illegal logging, that goes beyond the capacity of Cocoa Board, and I would like to allow people who are seized with the rightful powers to speak to that.
Right.
Yes, the issue, Nana talked about the use of technology, and I think it's a very valid point. But of course, it brings back to the fact that our farmers also have a little bit of a challenge in adopting new things. The slashes we are talking about, for example, there are those who even tell you that, and I say, I feel your microphone machine be and I say, but of course, we believe that it's human nature. And gradual interaction and education and sensitization. So we are working on that as well. There was a talk about irrigation. Yes, Cocoa Board has already
started. And maybe you can summarize and then wrap up on that point for this batch of questions. So please go ahead, Mr. Boafo. Mr. Boafo, so wrap up on that point so we can move on with regard to the conversation.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
So I was saying wrap up on that point so we can move on with the conversation, Mr. Boafo.
Okay, that's fine. The issue about using technology. At the moment, Cocoa Board is piloting irrigation. And so far, the result has been amazing. If you look at the facility that was procured from the African Development Bank, part of that facility is going into irrigation for cocoa farmers. And that is ongoing because we believe that with the current trend of a rainfall pattern, without the introduction of irrigation, farmers are going to have a challenge. But also to let Nana understand, and of course, I'm sure he does, because looking at the knowledge exhibited, He's someone who understands the industry. Part of our problem also has to do with the fact that our land tenure system has not helped our cocoa farmers to procure a larger scale of land for the producing of cocoa. So you have our farmers using very small piece of land, and that's all the concentration is. But with such a small land, it will be difficult for you to. So it clearly.
But I think at least I get the point with the land tenure system, and that's such a small piece of land. Of course, it will be difficult to manage. Even the nutritional or the nutrients in the soil would, at a point in time, be minimal, and then producing cocoa would be a problem. But let me come to you now. With what is happening now, China has started producing cocoa. Our agric minister says it's only small scale. They didn't even produce up to 1 ton of cocoa. But how much of a threat is that? China has the human resource, they have the land. How much is that a threat to you, a cocoa farmer?
Well, you see, I am just an ordinary cocoa farmer.
Right.
Okay. My job is to produce cocoa. It's up to the government to make sure that I'm also protected. Now, China is going into cocoa production. How are they doing it? Is China going to start producing a lot more cocoa so that the buyers will have another alternative?
Belgium is buying from them now.
Exactly.
And Belgium has the highest standards when it comes to cocoa. So if they are buying from China, it means the Chinese are getting something right, and it means
Is it
be a threat.
Why are they buying from China now? Is it because they don't have enough? Is it because our cocoa is not good enough? Has it deteriorated? These are questions that we have to ask. You understand? Let me also come in and tell you some of the challenges locally. Okay, the threat to us. Just this year, it was very difficult for our cocoa agents to pay us our money. When we sell our cocoa to the agents, money wasn't coming. You understand? That is also a threat. I'm not afraid of China, what China is going to do, but I'm afraid of my local agencies not being able to pay me.
Right.
Okay.
The middle people.
The middle people. If my cocoa clerk, we call them the cocoa crutcher, is not able to pay me when I weigh my cocoa, why should I even bother doing cocoa farming if I can plant rubber? So these are some of the things I think government to look at it. I want Fifi Boafo, I'd like to see Fifi Boafo after this program for us to have more education on certain things. Look, labor in cocoa farming. Look, when you harvest your cocoa, you need about 10 people to do about 2-3 tons of cocoa if you have to break them apart and prepare them for drying and stuff like that. There are machines that can do these things. If Cocoa Board is going to look at these things to cut labor down for the Ghanaian cocoa farmer, I think we can do something. Otherwise, the real threat, it's down there at the cocoa farming areas.
The real threat is down there in the cocoa farming areas. For Nana, he's not so bothered about China getting into the business, but the fact that maybe he is not getting value for what he has produced, that he's not getting his money on time and all of that. He's already spoken about illegal logging and all of this. But let me come to you, Tony Morrison. Is this an existential threat when it comes to China, for the first time in a long while, actually producing cocoa beans and exporting them to Belgium? Do you see that as a threat?
Yes, Benjamin. With the chamber, we continue to do our intelligence and forecasts. We are of major concern in that there are a few things when it comes to the geopolitical arena and what can be done. It's a long-term strategy. We can see the likes of China's technological powers, human resource, capital resource, and what they are capable of doing. In 10 years or 15 years, it could be worse. If China, we know the long-term, how long it takes to produce coal. What it takes to do, they have the high skills. Their skills of production is so high compared to the Ghanaian sector. I chair the Ghana Agriculture Sector Skills Council, and I can tell you the low rate of skills in the industry. China will have a very high skill, and for them to churn out larger quantities and better cocoa, very high compared to us. And China can also decide to sell at a very low price. Okay, so a likelihood of a major world cocoa price crash that will affect us. Now, another issue we should be looking at is major financing for some of the critical areas or the critical sectors that we mentioned, especially processing. This is the time we need to start increasing the consumption, processing and consumption of cocoa value chain products. Now, we also need to look at the cost of production cocoa per acre in Ghana. If we can reduce the cost of producing cocoa in Ghana, because I know once China begins to set in, if the cost is about 4,500 to produce cocoa, China could probably be doing less, and that they could start dictating the world market price. If they're able to produce probably 20% or 30% in the next 5 to 10 years,
let me just chip in, Morrison. Let me just chip in this bit very briefly. Our Agric Minister says that the quality of our cocoa is so high that they give us premium between 15% and 25% on our cocoa. Should that not be enough to erase such concerns?
It's a matter of time. It's a matter of time.
It's a matter of time.
For instance, Ecuador produces the best cocoa. Ecuador produces the best cocoa, but that is only small quantity. Now, we produces Ivory Coast, Ghana, Cameroon, Nigeria produces one of the best, but in quantity. So let's put that into each right context. But I must say that these advanced countries are always on the look for how to reduce the cost of production and make more money on the market by value addition. So this should be our critical point.
Okay.
Now, I also want to look at the law, the cocoa law, the cocoa board stronghold in the industry. If this continues, what I want to suggest is we have so many smallholder farmers who are participating in the industry. Is there any way we can introduce skills, that economic skills diversification, for them to be able to be more productive within the value chain and allow or find a way of giving incentives to huge national companies? It could be, how do you call it, commercial bank. It could be GNPC, who can go and invest probably about 6,000, 10,000 hectares of cocoa. Can we do something like that? Because that is the strategy of China. China are not depending on smaller holder farmers. China are depending on huge multinationals who has been given a lot of tax exemptions and to go into that. So if we are depending on smaller chain, it's increasing day by day, and they are also losing their farms. Can we now start to look at huge commercial farms for our cocoa?
So very forceful points that you've made, Mr. Morrison. Very forceful points you've made there. And I think it is time now for us to get some of those answers or some of those reactions from Mr. Boafo. We're wrapping up on the conversation, yeah? But Mr. Boafo, I want you to respond to some of these issues that have been raised and map the way forward. What is COCOBOD going to be doing? What should we look forward to? And then I'll take the final comments from Nana and Mr. Morrison as well.
Well, let me say that most of the things we are talking about is based on information which are either not accurate or not exactly what it is. During this conversation, and in fact,
technology.
The things I have heard is either not the case or it is probably based on information which is not accurate. So, for example, during this morning's conversation, I have heard that they have a large tract of land, and for that reason, they are producing a lot of cocoa. To start with, what we are talking about is cocoa that has been produced in Hainan province. The entire land size of Renan province is 34,000.
Let's just quickly put this into perspective, Mr. Boafo. Let's just put this into perspective. The discussion has not been that they have large swathes of land on which they are producing cocoa. We all know that where they produce the cocoa, it was just a small parcel of land. The point is that China has a lot of land, and if they decide to do this on a commercial level, we can't compete with them. That's the point to be made. Please go ahead.
China as a country may be big, but you ask yourself, which part of China is good for cocoa production? Of course, there are those who also talked about, for example, the use of technology and genetics. The very area we are talking about is a small island where cocoa is planted. If we assess that area, it has some semblance of Indonesia, Malaysia, and Indonesia and Malaysia are cocoa-producing countries. So yes, they will be able to produce cocoa using the support of technology. However, there are issues like frost, which when it happens, and of course the experience sometimes with a weather temperature of 5 to 6. What then happens is that you lose every pod on the tree. On top of that, these are places that experience heavy wind, and when every year that they experience that heavy winds, they will lose every pod they have on the tree.
Unfortunate, some very important points that Mr. Boafo is making, but apparently the connection is not that good. But he's talking about the fact that, well, looking at the temperatures in China, frost in itself could decimate cocoa trees and all of that. But should we count on that and think, well, these are the weather patterns there? And so I've seen countries where apples are not grown, doing magic, so to speak, and producing certain crops that normally you wouldn't find there, even strawberries. So I don't know what your quick take is on that. Your concluding thoughts in about a minute, Nana.
Well, I am not, honestly, I am not worried about China because I haven't done any research or looked into what China can do in terms of cocoa production. I just want my government to look at what is happening here. Okay, to bring in more technology, okay, some sort of mechanization to reduce the cost of cocoa production in Ghana. Okay, if government is able to do that, and I'm willing to talk to Mr. Boafo, okay, sometimes I know Cocoa Board is always on the ground, but sometimes they have to also listen to some of us, okay, to also tell them certain things that is going on. Look, we need labor cost in Ghana, okay, on the cocoa farms to go down. Okay, if we are able to do that, we'll see some differences in our cocoa production. All
right. Mr. Morrison, you have a minute with your wrap-up thoughts. And then since the line went dead at a point, Mr. Boafo, I'll give you a minute and then we'll wrap up. So, Mr. Morrison, your final comments. Mr. Morrison, if you can hear me, we can take your final comments on this. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So as a country, we need to look at our long-term strategy. Mr. Fifi, let me tell you, the chamber does a lot of intelligence work when it comes to this industry. We just don't sit down and come to radio or TV or public and make statements. We make statements with facts. And if you look at the industry, the introduction of technology, hybrid seeds, a number of things are coming that are taking away some of the old challenges that have been experienced. Okay, if you look at the Cocoa Board statement yesterday that they came, the statement itself shows some worry and concerns over the China issue, right? So we need to put issues in its right context. I mean, you have been very disingenuous with facts this morning, and I'm not happy about it because as a country, we need to be very strategic. What is our long-term strategy? What is Cocoa Board's own long-term strategy? 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. These are the things we need to be concerned with. Now, as a country, what are we doing to make sure that we improvise on the use of technology? I mean, using slashes and just weeders alone are not enough. A lot of things have been done. Disease control, a lot of heavy chemicals on our cocoas. All these things are very critical points that actually affect the cost of our pricing. So we need to look at it. But Benjamin, I want to end here with the fact that as a country, when we put our policies right, let the farmer, let those who are concerned with the policies understand. And when we are formulating policies, when we go to them in the consultative process, let us inculcate most of their concerns in the policy. Okay. That is when the people that the policies are supposed to affect will get themselves engaged in making sure that the policies succeed. Policies are not meant to roll or walk on themselves. It is the humans or those who are the stakeholders that actualize the policies and they make them very fruitful and successful.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morrison. And in the studio, just so you appreciate it, Mr. Boafo, Nana is here saying, yeah, and nodding his head. So I don't know, is that in agreement with, just to confirm, is that in agreement with what Mr. Morrison is saying? Yeah. Okay, so I just wanted to know that. So Mr. Boafo, you have a minute to respond to this so we can wrap up. What do you have to say?
I'm sure Nana's response did not have to do with describing what has been said as disingenuous. But anyway, and I thought probably that was uncalled for. Beyond that, if someone makes the point that Ecuador produces the best cocoa in the world, that's inaccurate. What Ecuador does is that it produces fine flavor cocoa. Fine flavor cocoa enjoys higher premium, but in terms of quality of cocoa, that is not the case. Beyond that, there's an issue about quality of the Chinese, what China is doing. There was a report I was reading yesterday. It has to do with assessment of the Chinese cocoa. This dates back 2013. So China, in actual fact, have been producing cocoa since 2013. So it's not something new that just happened this morning. On top of that, there's a talk about the huge cocoa that has been produced. Just to let Nana and other persons who are cocoa farmers and concerned about cocoa industry understand, what China has done is that they have produced less than 8 bags of cocoa. And they say that, okay, it's because of the quality of cocoa, that is why now they are resorting to China. If I decide, for example, to use my backyard garden to produce something, obviously, it's an innovation. People will love the idea that, oh, at least there's a backyard garden something. Is it large scale? What all of us must assess at this point in time is what China is doing. To what extent? There are those who have even suggested that if it is an entire province they were going to use to plant cocoa, that would be very small, looking at the size. Beyond that province, are there other parts of China that have similar geographical location and advantages or climates that will help them produce cocoa? That's what we are doing now. On top of that, there's also the need for us to ask ourselves about the question of cost of production, because the scientists have made me understand that if you look at the frosts, if you look at the high winds in those areas, if we decide to plant cocoa, for example, in China, there will be years where we'll not even produce.
Wow, Mr. Boafo making some...
Unlike being able to produce less than 8 bags of cocoa at this point in time. So yes, we believe that China has done something, but we also need to be mindful of the kind of spin and the kind of exaggeration and hyperbolic we become about on this issue. Because if you are assessing an issue, assessing is based on the fact helps you. But instead, if you choose to rather introduce your own set of facts and use it as a basis for discussion, it dilutes the whole conversation and you do not really appreciate the issues which you are dealing with. Okay. Yes, we are all reading about what China has done. It's not a case that Cocoa Board or Ghana is asleep. No, we are not asleep. We are assessing the various aspects of it. There are those who have been talked about the shipments. There are those who have talked about what they are gaining from Belgium on that. We have a team that is working on this. We have a team that is assessing what is being done in China. So please, I am just appealing to all those who are concerned that this is not the time to panic. But of course, there's a need for you to observe and analyze and act based on that. Okay. So please, I will plead, the introduction of facts that are non-existent will not help the conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Boafo. Thank you very much. And I just want to end on this note. As a citizen and as a patriot, my hope and prayer is that this does not come to bite us in future. and that the sort of analysis we've made here will not come and sit here again years to come and say, oh, well, they've been producing since 2013, but now take a look. Things have gone south. It is my hope and prayer that COCOBOD will be able to do the right things, be strategic, like Anthony Morrison has said, and like Nana here has said, put in the right mechanisms so that whether it has to do with mechanization, whether it has to do with illegal logging activities that is disturbing the farmers, and even money matters, monetary issues, they'll be dealt with so that our farmers are comfortable and we can keep our lofty position when it comes to cocoa production. But I'd like to say a very big thank you to you, Fifi Boafo, head of the public relations department at COCOBOD, and of course Anthony Morrison of the Ghana Chamber of Agribusiness, and finally Nana Aye, the second traditional chief of Asin Esunaso, and also a major player in the cocoa industry, a farmer. You have something brief to add?
I just want to speak to Fifi Boafo of the program. Yeah.
15 seconds.
No, of the program.
That'll be off the program. Yes, yeah. Fine. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. Yeah, let's cross over now. And my colleague Daniel Dadze is having a conversation this morning. It borders on the Super League. He is there with Gary Al Smith and George Ado Jr. Let's cross over and find out what exactly they have to share.
Or you see some of your old stars playing, that's the concept. So
till date, despite the lure of European football and everything, when they say there's a Monday Star special happening at the Kokomleme Park, people will come because they know that an ex-Black Star player will come, a player you've not seen play in a long time will come. That is the idea.
Okay, I want to ask Constantine a question on this, because Constantine, this was back in '72. We knew there was a demand back then. Then we saw the UEFA Champions League with its explosion of European soccer. Why did that not cure the problem?
I guess, I mean, the Champions League was created to solve the problem, and I think in a way it did, because there was a new tournament, a format with not only the national champions, but also the second and third team in England and in Spain, were also big powerhouses, you know, being Barcelona, Real Madrid, and so on. They could all play at the same time in the Champions League, and for a long time, most clubs were satisfied. But there was there were investors coming in during the 2000s and 2010s, new investors from the US, from Abu Dhabi and Qatar, and some of them are not satisfied anymore with the revenue share they get. Right now, it's they get less than 50% of the revenue of the Champions League, and first they proposed a model where they get at least 50%, and with the Super League, they wanted to get, I don't know, 75% or so. So it's just crazy. About getting a bigger piece of it all, and especially with owners from the United States, they don't see it as a vanity project, owning a club. They see it as an enterprise where they can make a profit in the end. And making a profit in football can be hard sometimes. So you have to have a lot of money coming into your pocket, and that's why they wanted to split from the UEFA, because the UEFA still wants to have at least 50% control and 50% of the revenue. That just won't budge.
Okay, interesting way of captioning is it's really about money, George.
Yeah, it's about money.
Yeah.
It's and like Gary explained, it is basically about money, and this is how the big clubs feel. They feel that they have a lot of clout. Yes, they do have clout. They command a lot of the audience, and therefore they feel that should match how much they are receiving. So there's that feeling everywhere in the world. I was just going to try and localize this a bit and give an idea that even Kumasi Asante Kotoko Accra Hartsburg attempted something called Super 2 when they were not happy with the Galka preseason tournament. We had this preseason tournament and they attempted Super 2. So because the big clubs control a lot and have a lot of audiences and have so much, there's always a feeling that we can get more, and especially at this time, because of COVID and then the debts they are in.
It's already there's
a financial strain there. So they felt like they want to go around it. Gary makes the brilliant points about what happened in 72.
But it's not just
you see that the upscale, but you see that there was like an upscale, and what they tried to do was work on the existing structure. Why this one is radical is that knock off the existing structure and move on, and let's make our money and let's enjoy. And that's why it became such a big issue.
Amazing. Gary, so take us through the years. I heard Constantine mention the 2000s and 2010s. What did we pick from there?
Before I do that, let's look at the next paragraph of the same document. Okay, if we could go back to the previous slide. Now, the next paragraph says, the success of the European Cup led to other competitions, as well as stimulating the Intercities First Cup, right? Which was
We've got, let's go to the next one.
Which was streamlined into one season after splattering uneasily over 2 seasons. Among the new competitions which were started were the European Cup Winners' Cup, which is the precursor to the Champions League.
Okay.
Yes. Which included Wolves and Rangers in its first season of 1960-61, the Alpine Cup between the 4 Italian and the 4 Swiss clubs, because they are around the Alpine regions, and the Friendship Cup among 4 English, 4 Scottish, and 8 French clubs. So the idea has always been there that we should find a common ground around which we should play something and make money from the fans from, which takes us to the next slide.
Okay, so let's look at what's coming next.
With this idea from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, people have always thought, what's the easiest or newest way that we can come together, show our might, and get money from people to sponsor the ever-growing expenses that we have. Arsene Wenger, the Arsenal coach, is somebody who is always known to be visionary and forward-thinking. This is him, guess what, in 2009.
You see the caption that the article is more than 11 years old.
This is from The Guardian. He says, the European Super League will be here in 10 years. He said this in 2009.
If it was Ghanaian, people would be presenting with seed that he's a prophet.
Osofo Chaboso.
Look, Gary, we have some quotes from this particular article. Let's look at that quickly, and then I bring in the rest of the guys.
So this is what he said. He said, I see more a European league developing over time rather than one team going out of the country, which is to say that the champion of England versus the champion of Spain and all that. So this is
there's a bit more from what
he said as well.
Saying.
It's also interesting that he mentions that the national leagues will survive, but maybe in 10 years you will have a European league. Now listen to what he said again. He said the national leagues will survive. That means the English Premier League, the whatnot. But you will have a European league, which means that a league of 36. Where all of them are from different countries, but they will do an all play all. That is what he prophesied. Now, so
there's a bit of what he said right after this. You love it, trust me. It comes in here. It says that
I'm not sure 100% that I'm right, but I feel inside our game there are some voices behind the scenes coming up to do something about that, especially if the rules become too restrictive for these clubs. And that is exactly what Constantine alluded to.
That in the 2000s and in the 2010s, there were some people behind the scenes.
Who are the people behind the scenes? He mentioned them, the Americans, who now own more and more clubs in Europe. The Qataris, who own some of the big clubs in Europe. The Abu Dhabi cartel, who own the Man Cities and others. The Man City group, as they call them. And that is why, from the 2009 prophecy, we had an attempt in 2014, 2016, all didn't work, and then in 2021 they tried and almost Daniel work.
Why do you think it didn't work, George?
Well, it's interesting.
The previous attempts.
Yes, and just to touch what Gary was saying, is that when you check the clubs who wanted to do this and you look at their ownership, you understand that by large they are the Americans and the Qataris, just as you made the point. That's why they're looking for money. I feel that it didn't succeed for maybe 2 reasons. One, the timing itself wasn't too good. Number 2, the fans did not accept it. And I think number 3, the owners were lost. There was a big gap between what they thought was ideal and what was actually on the ground.
Exactly, that's a good one.
These are the 3. For me, these are the 3 reasons why.
Even in the past.
I think.
But they came very close this time.
Yeah, they came close. Yes, I think that even with this, if they had looked at these 3 reasons and moved on to do a few things, maybe they would have had a chance. And maybe a 4th reason is the fact that this whole football pyramid takes a lot. Especially when FIFA and UEFA and most of the federations, when they have challenges like that, will go through the political lines to try and solve this. So there's a little battle between English Premier League clubs and UEFA, and before you know it, you have politicians starting to speak, House of Commons starting to speak, Boris Johnson starting to speak, and it gives you an indication of the scale of the battle. I'm not sure they were ready for all of this.
They weren't ready, basically.
They weren't ready for all of this.
Okay, so let's begin to learn a bit more about what the Super League was then. Who was supposed to be in it? What was
So now we've done a bit of history about how some people in the 70s wanted to. So this time, the iteration that they wanted the Super League to be was like this. They wanted 12 founding clubs. They chose for 12 founding clubs. Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, Man City, Liverpool, Spurs, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Barcelona, Inter, AC Milan, Juventus. So these were the 12 founding clubs, all right? Now, these were 12 of 20 they wanted to play.
Okay.
So who were the other 8? Out of the 8, 3 clubs were to be determined. So they said these were the 12 that were sorted. They were going to invite, now we know, PSG, Bayern. And Dortmund. So 1 from France and then 2 from Germany.
Basically the biggest ones there.
We will come to why they chose them very shortly. So that makes 15, right? So the other 5 would have been chosen every year based on a coefficient system, you know. And
so basically 5 will qualify.
5 will qualify. So,
okay, you know
so
what?
5 something.
Let me take these questions to Constantine. And I know it's controversial for the fans of those clubs, but I'm looking at the clubs. Tottenham Hotspur has no place in there. It has no place in there. Even arguably with Arsenal, with their most recent respect to you, Gary, I know you're a fan.
What are we doing there?
Exactly, with their most recent performance, how did they find their place in there, Constantine? Why do you think so?
Yeah, so especially with Arsenal, it's quite easy to explain. Stan Kroenke, American billionaire, is the owner of Arsenal, and he's well connected to other American billionaires, entrepreneurs who are in sports, because Kroenke also owns NFL teams, NHL teams, and so on. So he's well connected there, and he's an established sports entrepreneur in a way, and that's why he was in it. Arsenal is still a brand, also. We should acknowledge at least because of the 2000s when they were, when the Gunners were really strong in the Premier League and winning the Premier League a lot of times. And Kroenke is just one of the more powerful owners in European football, and that's why I said they are the Americans basically pushed for that with Florentino Perez from Real Madrid, but it was really the Americans, the Glazer family, Kroenke, and also the AC Milan owners, for instance. AC Milan hasn't been that great in a couple of years, but they were still in it because they are also owned by the Americans.
Okay. How about Tottenham, Gary?
So Tottenham are owned by a group, and we have a slide about the ownership, right?
Yes. We will get there. We
will get there in a second. But you're asking why they were there. So beside the owners, I was saying yesterday in our editorial meeting that for most projects around the world, you need London in there.
The city itself.
For most financial projects, because if you read a bit about the finances of the world and all that, that square mile, Canary Wharf in London, for many years, for centuries, it was the richest square mile in the world. Historically, the financial center of the world was London. I mean, before the Americans came after World War II, if you look at the establishment of the Bretton Woods Institution, which is the precursor to what we now call the IMF and the World Bank and so on, it was hugely Anglo-centric. And you can't do without the London factor because of where they are and also because of the historic tradition of the two clubs. Remember, like he said, Arsenal may be a bad team on the pitch, but guess what? Off the pitch, their books, Arsenal is one of the most well-run clubs in the world. They are just in layman's terms, in Ghana man's terms, a chisel club. That's all. They have money, they don't like to spend. But
we are not talking about tools that.
this is a very Ghanaian term. Yeah. So, like he also said, Stan Kroenke, the owner of Arsenal, is the owner of one of the NFL franchises, and he is known to manage that team as miserly as he manages Arsenal. They have a lot of money, and they are always there and thereabouts. So that is why.
So for Tottenham as well, it's also because of the London influence.
Yes.
Okay. So we've talked a bit about the who. Let's quickly run through the why and then the format. Format of it.
So the question about why they decided to do this now is important, because we've established from Constantine that entrepreneurs go to entrepreneur. I mean, they put money in, they want money out. They get about 50% of profit. They thought it's too small. They can get about 75% profit. So
how about George takes us through this?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, no, and so that's the point. So, one, more money for Super League teams, as JP Morgan is bankrolling with 4 billion. And this is really, really huge. I'm sure when we go into how much the clubs were going to get from just participating in a competition versus how much they will get from winning another competition.
Yeah.
It's the UEFA Champions League versus the Europa Super League. Super League, you are getting so much money for just participating. Now, some clubs are financially struggling. Yes, he's put some, but most. Yeah, because they are in debt. Kind. Yes, because the clubs are in debt. They have a lot of money, a lot of debt, and so much to try and come up with, especially with the COVID situation. I thought the COVID situation was going to prevent clubs from buying, but they had to buy because of the pressure that had come on a lot of them. So they went in to buy. I'm sure later we'll talk about transfer deals and how all of that is still firing the clubs and making it difficult for them to go through. Super League say existing Champions League has lost its magic and financial power. Financial power because they feel that they are big enough to attract something and it's not coming to them.
Yeah.
They think that UEFA has monopoly over this competition and it's just dealing with anyone anyhow. The big guys felt that it's time to push them around because we can make some more money out of this. So these are the reasons why the Super League came around. After the I mean, has lost its magic. That one is Florentino Perez. Who can explain that?
You know what? I wanted us to spend some time talking about when the games will play and the format and all of that. But
we can skip it.
You can skip it at the number, so as we say, as we say in Ghana. Yeah. So what I want to know is that comparison that you were talking about, the Champions League and maybe the Premiership versus the Super League. How does that pan out?
Well, to piggyback off these reasons, and what George said, more importantly, the 12 clubs decided that, look, George said something that's really important. UEFA as the brokering agency for the Champions League, because the Champions League is for them. Yeah. So when they go to advertisers, they get 100 CDs and they pocket 75 CDs and share the 15 CDs among the other clubs. And the other clubs have decided that, look, if we come together, we can get 100 CDs and give, or we can get 1,000 CDs and give all of us 100 with change to spare, which takes us to this presentation. Look at this. This slide by the time we finish with this slide, it may make you a bit empathetic towards the Super League. Because when they win the Champions League, like Bayern Munich won last year, or even as we are going to the Champions League final on the 29th of May, the winner is going to get 82.4 million euros. The Premier League winner gets 150 million euros. That's a total. The whole Champions League and Premier League is 232.4 million euros.
So this is where I'll be biased and say that's what my Liverpool was.
That is what your Liverpool got last season.
Yeah.
For the Super League, just to take part, come and play, Bobby. They give you 350 million.
And there's no relegation promotion.
There's no relegation.
You are playing for the next 23 years.
For these 15 clubs,
this is money
every year.
For 23 years at least.
So, Daniel, it's crazy. If you are the owner of one of these clubs, why won't you say, let's go? So this is for participation. And if God smiles on you, luck smiles on you, and you win, look at the amount you get.
So that's almost $1 billion, close to €1 billion in 1 year.
Yeah.
That's coming to you. You can buy as many Neymars and as many Mbappes as you want.
Because currently Neymar costs 200 million.
200 million.
Let's see.
Yeah.
So Neymar, you need to win the Champions League and Premier League to get around buying Neymar.
Wow, look.
and your debt is hovering in that region there. Slightly below that from having. So then you come to Super League. So when you participate in the Super League, you can possibly buy Neymar. You have change. Attempt to win in it. The next season is assured. The next season is assured. So if you're thinking about the financial reason, you can't blame these clubs. if football was just straightforward and it's about financial reason, if it was me, I would look at it and say, please, bring it on, let's go.
Constantine, do you agree that you can't blame them? I'll give you a context to this question. When Asamoah Gyan was moving from Sunderland to Al Ain, he was very, very criticized that he wasn't making a good career move. But a lot of Ghanaians actually identified with him and said, look, his grandmother is here in Ghana, she needs money. Go and take the money and bring it. But Constantine, do you agree with the idea that, look, they were justified to an extent?
In a way, yes. I mean, what the owners want, what the clubs want, the top clubs, is steady revenue. On that's the first point, and meaning steady revenue. If you have a bad season like Arsenal, or a couple of bad seasons, you are not in the Champions League at all. So you are far away from any kind of the prize money that was mentioned. But if you're in the Super League, there's no relegation. You will never be out of the Super League. Even if you are finishing last for 5 seasons in a row, there is still the participation money, which is 350 million, and that's a lot of money just to be a participant and getting beaten all the time by the Real Madrids and Barcelonas. So they want safety, they want steady income all the time. Calculations have to be secured. And the second thing is, of course, they want to have more money. They want to get a profit, and they thought the Super League might be the way to do that. But the one thing I was never really sure about when the proposal came is JP Morgan funded the entire project with $3.25 billion. So and they thought they can get the money back through television revenue, television rights fees. But if there are not a lot of fans behind the project and on watching the thing, then you don't get the television rights fees, because the television companies want viewers. And so, it was still a speculation to really get that money out of the entire project, because you need the fans, you need the television viewers. Otherwise, it's just not working.
Gary, take us through some of the numbers that these leagues hold and some of these clubs hold, because he's talking about fans, he's talking about viewers. Someone must have crunched these down, right?
Exactly.
Where's the money coming from?
And I'm loving how seamlessly the conversation is going so far, because it seems like one thing is leading to the other. So again, let me piggyback on what he said. JP Morgan puts $4 billion in this project because they believe that they could get the money some way, somehow. Yeah. And this is because they crunched the numbers, looked not just at the historical nature of these clubs, their financial nature as well, but also their earning potential on television, on radio, and on digital media. So in our next slide, we will look at what the ownership is like from these teams, and then look at how big they are on social media. Now, JP Morgan guarantee, because just like a loan, let's do the basic. If somebody is giving you a loan, they look at your collateral. The collateral of these 12 clubs was enough to convince JP Morgan that they are worth supporting. Why do they say so? And I want you to take note of the Americans in this slide, because they were the biggest influence and the biggest reason why JP Morgan decided to do this. So Liverpool are owned by FSG, or the Fenway Sports Group, which is headlined by John W. Henry. Man United are owned by the American Glazer family, right? AC Milan are owned by Elliott Management. Arsenal are owned by Kroenke Sports Enterprises, which is held by Stan Kroenke and his son Josh. Then you come to the others. Chelsea owned by an individual, Roman Abramovich. Man City are owned by the Abu Dhabi United Group. The Tottenham are owned by the ENIC Group. Atletico Madrid is owned by one individual called Gail Marin. And this is the difference. Juventus by the Agnelli family, and then Real Madrid are owned by the club members, Barcelona by the club members. Okay? But Real Madrid and Barcelona are in serious debt. Okay, they are in serious debt. So this gives you an idea. If we could go to the next slide. Now, the Americans in there watched what happens in America with the NBA, Major League Baseball, and the NFL, and decided and told the others that this is the way we do it in America. We don't need relegation and promotion, because when you have teams as big on digital, on traditional media like these ones, and these are the numbers they used to justify. Now get this. All the 12 clubs that we have seen in the previous slide, these are their social media following in purple across Facebook.
And that's in billions, isn't it?
Yes, in billions. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. And this is what network is? I've forgotten which one it is. Weibo, the Chinese. Yes. 1.336.3 billion followers across all the networks. Now get this one. This will blow your mind. If you add all the 86 remaining teams in the Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A, and League One.
No, from France.
Yes, that's France. So England, Spain, Germany, Italy, and France. 86. All their social media followers across all these networks. You have 998 million against only 12. Now, again, if you're a businessman and I bring you this proposal, why wouldn't you take it?
Speaking of money, let me quickly make some money for Joy Prime TV right now. The all-new Bet Here 2 provides all sports fans the chance to make some money by betting on their favorite sports. We provide the best odds on live and pre-live games and offer the most bonus